Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron Michael Sanchez, and we're doing a Sunday edition of the top news of the week, especially in the last several days. There's been a lot of interesting news, and some of which are world events, and we're going to cover some of these right here, right now. And if you're joining me, then I know you're already in social media land on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, also LinkedIn. So if you're around and then some, like me, usually on Sundays you're thinking, what am I going to do the rest of the day? Well, all I can say right now is let's talk some news in the news. Now, I used to do this thing every single evening before I did the morning show, weekdays at 8 a.m. on KMET 1490 AM. And I used to kind of get from you as the audience certain things that you want to talk about, certain things you kind of want to know, and some things that you just say, what do I want to add to the conversation? So we ask that you add your own thoughts, your own thinking, and your own stuff to our social media chat room, and then some. Even if you just want to say hi, there is no commercial breaks, there is no time limit. We just go as long as we need to go. Now, there's a couple things I do want to talk about, and I'll start talking, kind of lead, and then you guys can say whether you agree, whether you disagree, and if you know or if you didn't know, okay? Lately this week, I actually had a conversation with a really good friend, and he said literally, there's so much information happening in the world that literally people do not know what's going on. And I feel that everybody's just talking coronavirus, but they're not talking about what's happening on this earth. And there's so many earthquakes, there's so many volcanoes, there's so many things. And then he said the dreaded SA word. Do you know what the SA word? Type it in if you know what the SA word. Yeah, has to do with earthquakes. Okay, so type it in if you know. I'll look for your chats, and I'm primarily on Facebook. I'm watching the chat right there. So there you are. Okay, so when you guys chat, then I can correspond with you. Okay. Now, having said that, there's a lot of interesting things in the world, but I will say this: earthquakes are something that we don't want to talk about. Volcanoes, something we do not want to talk about. But I have been following, thanks to my mom, who I keep saying watches this stuff. And she watches this stuff on YouTube. So I'm going to go to that first and foremost, okay? Because it's very alarming what we're seeing in certain areas all around the world. And this is the most recent thing in Indonesia, okay? I've seen some other things. I don't have that information for you. But I found this clip, and I think you're
Ini yang awalnya jembatan membentang ke arah utara, sekarang sudah terputus total. Jadi untuk kendaraan semua tidak bisa lewat, roda 4 maupun roda 2 tidak bisa lewat. Inilah kondisi terkini. Bangunannya ini ada di dasar sungai. Itu kedua-duanya juga jembatan yang lama terputus total. Ini ada di dasar sungai.
thing that we're seeing, thanks to the Guardian and thanks to the journalists over there that compile all this information, they are seeing a lot of things. But around the world, there is so much happening. It's sad. Now, I like to watch certain videos on YouTube, and I will give a shout out to these guys. And these guys really put it into perspective. They compile everything all around the world, all the major things that are happening. And sometimes I talk about this with people here on the home front, in LA and around, and I say, hey, did you know this was happening? My mom had a conversation with the car dealership, some guys, about five guys, and she said, did you know this was happening? And they were kind of like, no, we're just trying to sell cars. But the reality is, a lot of people are unaware of this. So instead of just kind of buying into, the stuff that we talk about typically throughout the week, I'm going to go to this. can check them out. Again, Climate Change, that's the YouTube channel. I do a big shout out to them because, well, we're using their video to be able to explain what it is that we see. And the question is, are you ready for this? Are you ready to understand that there are things happening on this earth that we need to be aware of? Are you ready? I hope you are, because these are the things happening. Now, it's not all dismal. Obviously, we're still alive. Many of us I know in the LA region are just looking at the weather and going, yep, looks beautiful today. Pretty sure we're all going to be okay. Pretty sure everything's going to be okay and fine. And I say, you know what? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So there's other things in the news, but I just want to create some awareness because we're talking about, obviously coronavirus, but we're talking about other things, but we don't talk enough about cataclysmic events that are happening in other areas. Even in Japan, there's a huge tsunami, huge earthquake. They've had multiple earthquakes. This didn't cover the earthquakes that have been happening. I think the last count, 314 earthquakes in just, I think, a 48-hour time limit in Spain because of the volcano. When you have volcano, you have earthquakes. And when you have earthquakes, you have erupting on the earth. That's hard for buildings to stand. That's why I say, get out of town. Why are you staying in the area? Why are you staying in the region? In any of these areas, head in the opposite direction if you can. I don't want to cause mass panic in some of these areas, but obviously I'd say stay alive, stay awake, be awake. Be awake to these things because these things are happening. We have to remember we are all interconnected. This world is interconnected. What erupts on the opposite side of the planet erupts in the air. We are not immune to it. We're not. And these things cause major thunderstorms. These things cause multiple things to happen on the earth. When you have that much ash spew into the Earth's atmosphere, how does the Earth's atmosphere account for it? To create enough oxygen, to create enough supply for us, how does it clean itself? It has the way, but sometimes it's cataclysmic. So yes, the Earth is sick, and we need to help our people, our friends, our relatives, say, you know what, let's pay attention to this. What are we doing in the next, 8 years in order to help this along? And I know some are saying, well, it's not up to me. It's up to the lawmakers. It's up to government. It's up to they. And I know some say, well, the only thing you can do is call them and hope that they do something. And I say, I think there's more that can be done. But nobody wants to listen. So if you want to listen, here's what I say. Pay attention. I know economy is important. I know lives are important. I know the earth is important. I know the world is important. We want to go to outer space. I just saw an article which was kind of mind-boggling to me. Somebody said to me, I don't think we're ever going to go to Mars. And I said, excuse me? We're already in Mars. What? I said, yeah, we're already in Mars. But I saw today an article about a nuclear reactor being built on Mars. That's a suggestion. I'm telling you, they got plans there. We just don't know just yet. I think they're going to mine for stuff. I think they're going to find certain things on the Earth's surface of Mars, and they're going to figure out how to make money from it. I don't see it not happening. It's a resource, is it not? That's what we do to this earth. And we do so in such a way that we feel like it's completely got plenty of resources for us, huh? Yeah, but there's only so much of so much. So I say, let's focus on energy that we can, well, it's never for free, is it? But we can pull from the sun. We can pull from the wind. We can pull without fracturing our earth. Our earth's crust is becoming weak, people. It's becoming weak. And as it becomes weak, as it becomes, well, fractured. Is it becoming fractured? Yeah. Sad but true. Sad but true. Okay, people. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it when it comes to world news. And all I know is, look, a lot of us want goodness in our lives. A lot of us want greatness in our lives. A lot of us want things to happen for good. But are we ready for that? I don't know. All right, I saw another audio playing. Sorry, I apologize for that. I'm not sure what's playing behind the scenes, but I'm not listening to that part. I probably should. That way I can identify what it is. But there you go. So, again, this is an informal talk about some very cataclysmic things happening. But let's go to some other news, shall we? All right. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. That's the story at the beginning. Now let's talk about some stuff. What do you guys want to talk about? Let me know. This is interesting. And yet, I'm going to kind of lighten the load here. I'm going to go to something a little bit more fun and weird all at the same time. And this is one which I said I wasn't going to talk coronavirus, but I have to talk about this really quick and really fast, okay? what do you do when you go get your shots if you have got a shot? Whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whether you believe it works, whether you believe it doesn't work, what do you do when you're a dentist in Italy who evidently did something that other people would say, what? A nurse in the northern city of Biella Filippa Bua said she could tell right away something was off when a man presented his limb for a shot on Thursday. What's going on with your arm? She says, when I uncovered the arm, I felt skin that was cold and gummy, and the color was too light. She told that to an Italian paper. She said she initially thought the 57-year-old man was an amputee and had mistakenly offered the wrong arm. She lifted his shirt and saw a silicone arm. What? Yeah, a fake arm. That's what it was. It's a fake arm made of silicone. I don't know if he was trying to get like some additional shots or put it into a vial. I do not know. She says, I understood immediately that the man was trying to avoid the vaccination by using a silicone prosthetic into which he hoped that I would inject the drug unaware. Now, I am going to say this. I mean, if he was afraid of it and if you're kind of mandated to get it, it's kind of a way to get around it. I mean, they do kind of fake drug tests, right? So maybe he thought of doing that. I don't know what kind of synthetic arm he went for, but there you go. The nurse said the man acknowledged he did not want a vaccine, but to obtain a super health pass, because he's a dentist, which from Monday will be required to enter restaurants, cinemas, theaters, and other venues in Italy. He didn't want to pay a $25 charge for a little fake card. So there you go. And one that he probably could have printed out, huh? He had already been suspended from work because of his refusal to get vaccinated, which Italy requires for medical personnel. Good to know. The nurse said the man was courteous, left the vaccination center after the failed attempt. So evidently she got him out on it and said, I don't think so. She said this, quote, we stopped and reflected and we understood that this wasn't just a surreal situation, but a real attempt at fraud. She and others at the vaccination site turned paperwork over to superiors so they could report the case, which has been given to prosecutors. Okay, whoa. I get it. This is weird. This is dumb. This is insane, maybe, to some people. But you push a dentist only so far. I guess you go through certain lengths. Now, is this an illegal exercise of something else? I'll let you guys decide. What do you think? Do you think that's a thing? Do you think it's not a thing? What do you think? I don't know, but I know this. This is a situation. According to this, he faces possible criminal charges. You're kidding me, right? I think that's maybe the smartest thing to do. Obviously, he went next level. But he didn't get it at the end. Who's there to suffer, him or someone else? I don't really know, because even if you get the vaccination, from what I understand, you still could give it to others. So I don't know how I sit on this, but there you go. Italy's vaccination rate is relatively high at 85% of the currently eligible population, ages 12 and over. People in the age range from 30 to 59 have proven the most resistant to vaccinations, with nearly 3.5 million still not having received their first doses. So I get it. The dentist wanted to work, but are we going to really go criminal on that? I mean, come on. I mean, I could be wrong about this, but whatever. Patricia Sommer says they had a really bad outbreak there. They are trying to keep people alive. Well, that makes sense, but anybody that goes and gets a prosthetic arm ready to go, hey, shoot me in the arm. Yeah. I say just let them go, you know? I mean, what are you going to do at the end of the day? I mean, all you know, they might just get a fake card and then really pretend stuff. There you go. That's just something some people are just wanting to do. So there you go. All right. This is in the news. I think this is interesting, by the way. Oddly enough, have you ever seen a snake that said, go away, snake, I do not like snakes? I see snakes hardly ever, thank God. And when I used to actually do some fueling for work that I used to work with, I literally was always like, please, 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 not there be a rattler, right? Have you guys ever thought something like that? Well, I will tell you this. A Maryland home was accidentally burned to the ground by an owner trying to get rid of a snake infestation. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, this is the latest in this. This was the result of evidently a snake infestation, which I don't know if the snake survived or didn't. I haven't read the article yet, but here we go. This was the picture, yes, after the homeowner in Poolesville, which is a town about 25 miles outside of Washington, D.C., was attempting to use smoke to purge the snakes from the house. Well, there was more than one snake, I get it. Maybe it was a family. You never know. According to Montgomery County Fire Department officials, in the process, the homeowner caught the house on fire, causing about, just $1 million in damage. Yeah, according to the Washington Post. The fire broke out around 10 p.m. on November 23rd, according to officials. Pete Piringer, a spokesman for the county fire department, said on Twitter that 75 firefighters were called to put out the blaze that started in the basement. Piringer said the fire caused by placing coals too close to combustible material was accidental and that no people were hurt, but he said the well-being of the stakes is undetermined. In other words, I think they got out. Now, I'm not going to lie. I think that's one way to get rid of certain things, but evidently you didn't do it right. Thank God there weren't bees, right? So there you go. That's the result of having snakes in your basement. Yeah, call up Sci-Fi, and that's a new movie. There you go. The Sci-Fi channel on snakes causes wildfires. And there you go. Speaking of wildfires, are there wildfires around the world? Yeah, I heard there were. I don't know. I heard Australia has some interesting things happening there. Yeah, yikes. Okay. The series there. There you go. There's some weird news for you in the middle of it all. Now, I will say this. Some of you have been kind of following the latest news, and I have to say, I was sad to see this discussed on the news with Alec Baldwin. If you guys know what I'm talking about the situation with the shooting. Now, having said this, I know everybody has their opinion, but I will say this. Anybody that's ever been on a set knows you usually, well, if it's an action film, and I mean, how many films has he done where he usually has a gun? He usually knows gun safety. Now, gun safety in certain areas is different. What I mean by that is, depending where you shoot, sometimes they cut corners, sometimes they don't, and sometimes accidents happen. Now, having a live ammunition in a gun is one thing, but pointing it at somebody and then, well, yeah. What did he say? Well, he said a lot, but this is the result of that and then some. Authorities pursued new leads on possible sources of live ammunition involved in the fatal shooting of the cinematographer on the New Mexico set of the Western movie as they searched the premises of an Albuquerque-based firearms and ammunition supplier. The search took place after a provider of firearms and ammunition to the fated movie production for Rust told investigators that he may know where live rounds came from, describing ammunition he received from a friend in the past that had been reloaded by assembly from the parts. Now, a revolver fired by Baldwin during the Rust rehearsal on October 21st killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins and left the projectile lodged in the shoulder of director Joel Souza for doctors later to remove. Baldwin was told the revolver was cold and had no live rounds, and that is more right than wrong. Whenever you are on a set, you expect that the team who usually deals with the ammunition has checked the gun, knows the gun is not carrying any actual bullets, and worst case scenario, even if they have bullets, you usually know gun safety. So the question is, why did he point at her? Well, he was told to. That's what he admitted in the news report. I watched it. And that's normal. You know, you point it to the person because they have the camera and the camera is shooting you, and then you just point it. How many people have taken pictures, right, pointing to the person? Which I say, check the barrel first. Always check the barrel. And I never used to think that until somebody actually told me, who actually was real in stunts, and they knew exactly what they were talking about. And they said, yeah, some people are sloppy, especially in certain countries. Now, New Mexico, I don't know what's happening there, but I will say it's probably not the first time. But whenever you point, again, never do you put your finger on the trigger, ever, anywhere near it. Usually you have to go sideways. But if you're going to go for a close shot, obviously you're going to go right here. Now, how hard is it to just pull it, right? I don't know. But the reality is, who put the bullet in the gun in the first place? Now, he knows he's shooting a movie, obviously. That goes without saying. So I was not okay with the way the interview actually was kind of slanted against him, because the obvious is he's shooting a movie. He has no means to want to kill somebody. I mean, that is not even a thing that anybody wants to do, right? I don't think that's what you would do if you were, pointing at a camera and or a person off camera, because that's usually the way it is. You rarely do it right into the camera. But if he had done it directly in the camera, would he have shot the camera directly? I say yes. But again, did he know that there were real live rounds? Usually they host blanks. And blanks, oddly enough, look very similar, but are not obviously the same. To a trained professional, they would know. Now, did he check it ahead of time? Or did he trust when he's given it to do this or do that? Or was he going to shoot it off camera? Or did he want to shoot it, but he thought it was a blank? Now, I will say this, and they taught us this in theater when I was about 15. When you have a blank, never, ever, ever direct it to anybody. You shoot it off the person. Do it to where it looks like it's at them, but never at them, ever. And I used to think, why do they do that? And I thought, well, maybe because it's so loud. Because I remember pulling blanks at 15 in a particular theater play, and I kid you not, your ears ring. I forget the sound, but it's really loud, and you can't hear anything for a good 80 seconds or so. And you're just like, oh God, why does that thing go off? Why did that go on near my ear? Because that could cause problems in your ear after so long. That's why they usually put those big things over time, right? But my point is this. Did he do it on purpose? Obviously not. I'm pretty sure a good majority of us already think that. If you disagree, type it out on social media. But there you go. These are the things that they're now researching, and they're hoping that it's not a planned thing, obviously. There's a lot of information here, but we just need to remember, of course, he is what? Yeah, whatever you're thinking, just remember the guy's an actor, and he does these things with live rounds ever. No, it doesn't work that way. They usually use blanks, okay? Going on in the story, Seth Kenney and his business, PDQ Arm and Prop, provided movie prop ammunition and weapons to the Rust production. Kenney told a detective on October 29th that a couple years back, he received reloaded ammunition from a friend, and that the ammunition stood out in his memory because of a star-shaped company logo, according to an affidavit from the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office that is leading the investigation. Kenney could not be reached for comment. A Sheriff's Office spokesman declined to elaborate on details in the search warrant. Investigators initially found 500 rounds of ammunition at the movie set on the outskirts of Santa Fe, which is a mix of blanks, dummy rounds, and what appear to be live rounds. Industry experts have said live rounds should never be on set. Yeah, because that's true. Tuesday's search warrant affidavit contains some new details about the handling and loading of the gun that killed Hutchins before it was handed to Baldwin by an assistant director. See, because it goes through several different people. Investigators say that the armorer on the film, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, loaded the gun with 5 dummy rounds on October 21st, but struggled to add a 6th round before a lunch break when the revolver was locked in a truck. The final round was added after lunch when the gun was cleaned. Gutierrez-Reed said he stated the guns were checked on set. However, she didn't really check it too much due to it being locked up at lunch, according to the new affidavit. Another movie crew member, the prop master for Rust, told investigators that ammunition was purchased from at least 3 sources for the production. Jason Bowles, an attorney for Gutierrez-Reed, called the search for evidence in Albuquerque a huge step forward, determining the source of ammunition on the Rust set. Investigators described the conversations with Gutierrez-Reed's father, sharpshooter and movie consultant Thel Reed, who isn't listed as a participant on Rust. Thel Reed said that prior to the Rust production, he supplied Kenney with a can of live ammunition during a firing range training session for film actors. Reed said Kenney took a can of that ammunition back to New Mexico. After the shooting, the prop master on the set shook a box of dummy rounds on the set for their characteristic rattle and said they did not rattle, possibly indicating live rounds. I apologize. So the reality is, could it have gotten mixed in the middle of it all? I say yes. What prevents people from having fun in New Mexico, maybe in the desert, by shooting cans for fun? And I say, oh, yeah, okay, let's get those out. And then, oops, one gets lodged in between. Yeah, that can happen. Gun enthusiasts know that. That's why you always check the barrel every single time. All right, people, so that's the news on that. What are you thinking? Let us know on social media. Let's see. Patricia says an actor followed following direction. Those responsible for the gun said it was cold. Yeah, but again, it's not like he goes, okay, I'm going to put one in there that's live. I have a reason to kill anyone and everyone around me. I guarantee you that wasn't the case. You could see his face in those news interviews, and he is suffering. And I say, people, check on him. Check on him, please, because a person like that who blames himself for every, well, what's going to happen next? Yeah. Check on the guy. Okay, check on him. All right, let's see. Other news is this. Oddly enough, this is a conversation we were talking about earlier on this week in Michigan. And in Michigan, we were kind of talking about it, especially of the child. And I know even I was kind of going, okay, what do we do with this information with the young boy who's 15? And oddly enough, go, what's happening at home? We talked about this on the morning show, and I know a couple people were like, well, yeah, but, and I said, okay, we'll just wait. and let's see what happens. Well, this is the latest, and I will say this came to me from my mother, who actually pays attention to the news. Well, oddly enough, in a turn of events, the young boy's parents are now being looked at very carefully. James and Jennifer Crumbley entered not guilty pleas to each of the 4 involuntary manslaughter counts against them during a hearing held on Zoom. Jennifer Crumbley, who's seen on the right, sobbed and struggled to respond to the judge's questions at times, and James Crumbley, seen on the left, shook his head when a prosecutor said their son had full access to the gun used in the killings. Now, a judge imposed a combined $1 million bond for the Michigan teen charged with killing 4 students at Oxford High School hours after police said they were caught hiding in a Detroit commercial building. Now, Judge Julie Nicholson assigned bond of $500,000 apiece to each of the parents and required GPS monitoring if they paid to be released, agreeing with prosecutors that they posed a flight risk. Defense attorneys for the Crumbleys still argued Saturday that they never intended to flee and had made plans to meet their lawyers early that morning. Attorney Shannon Smith accused prosecutors of cherry-picking facts to release publicly, including the accusation that their teenage son had unrestricted access to the handgun prosecutors say his father purchased for him days before the shooting. Now, Smith said, quote, "Our clients are just as devastated as everyone else," adding that the gun was locked. She didn't provide more detail during Saturday's hearing. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald's office filed involuntary manslaughter charges against them on Friday, accusing them of failing to intervene on the day of the tragedy, despite being confronted with the drawing and chilling message, "Blood everywhere," that was found at the boy's desk. They could each face up to 15 years in prison, according to a spokesman for McDonald's office. The Crumbleys committed egregious acts, from buying a gun on Black Friday and making it available to Ethan Crumbley, the son, to resisting his removal from school when they were summoned a few hours before the shooting. Authorities have been looking for the couple since Friday afternoon. Late Friday, U.S. Marshals announced a reward of up to $10,000 each for information leading to their arrest. That was as of, this last Friday. Boy, these things rack up quick. Smith, the Crumbleys' attorney, had said Friday that the pair left town earlier in the week for their own safety and would be returning to Oxford to face charges. During Saturday's hearing, Smith said they were in touch by phone and text on Friday evening and blamed prosecutors for failing to communicate with her and fellow defense attorney Marielle. So, interesting state of affairs we find ourselves in, right? Very rarely do prosecutors ever look at the parents. And I will say this is an interesting set of things that we're finding ourselves in. What's going to happen next? Well, according to this, a lot of things are still kind of being uncovered. So I feel, if anything, we're going to have to kind of wait and see what happens with the situation. Obviously, there was information that was completely dismissed in a weird way. For example, this. According to this, school officials became concerned about the younger Crumbley on Monday, a day before the shooting, when a teacher saw him searching for ammunition on his phone. Jennifer Crumbley was contacted and subsequently told her son in a text message, "LOL, I'm not mad at you. You have to learn not to get caught." That's according to the prosecutor. Yikes. On Tuesday, a teacher found a note on Ethan's desk and took a photo. It was a drawing of a gun pointing at the words, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me." Now, I said this on the show. I said, this is a boy saying, "Please help." I said that just as of a couple of days ago, before this actually information was found out. Because you can see it. He needs help. And for him to write that says something very important. What's going on? What's going on in his head? What's going on at the house? What's going on in the family situation? What is going on? Granted, there was a drawing of a bullet with words above it, "Blood everywhere." Between the gun and the bullet was a person who appeared to have been shot twice and is bleeding. He also wrote, "My life is useless." And, get this, "The world is dead." That is a sad boy. And as a result, people are dead. Families are suffering. And families are feeling that right here, right now. So these things are happening. And, well, where are we going to go with that? What are we going to do? I know those that want to talk about gun safety, those that want to talk about school violence, those that want to talk about the kid. I know. But I want you to just understand something. There are things that lead up to a situation like this. And we have to go far back enough to say, where did we miss out? I know some people are mad at that teacher for not having done more, but the teacher did what the teacher could do. School quickly had a meeting with Ethan and his parents, who were told to get him into counseling within 48 hours. According to McDonald, the Crumleys failed to ask their son about the gun or check his backpack and resisted the idea of their son leaving the school at that time. Instead, the teen returned to class and the shooting subsequently occurred. Now, I get it. He's the one that pulled the trigger in this case and set out to kill. So, obviously, he is in the wrong. Obviously. 15. We all do things at 15. We wish our parents would never know. But this is a case that complicates everything. Because what do you do now when it comes to the parents? So will the parents get time? Will they not get time? Where are they going to go with this? In a written statement released Saturday, Oxford Community Schools Superintendent Tim Throne for the first time detailed the school's response to Crumbley's behavior. At the first meeting with a counselor and a staff member, Crumbley said shooting sports were a hobby for his family. During the second meeting with guidance counselors, Crumbley claimed the drawings were part of a video game design and said he wanted to pursue a career in that field. Yeah, he's just covering over his stuff. But when he says, help me, you listen. According to guidance counselors, Crumbley was calm and worked on homework while staff tried to reach his parents and they traveled to the school. The parents did not notify counselors that they had purchased a gun for their son recently during that meeting. He said, quote, given the fact that the child has no prior disciplinary infractions, the decision was made he would be returned to the classroom rather than sent home to an empty house. The prosecutor previously argued that Crumbley's parents should have told counselors their son had access to a gun when they were called in for a meeting about his behavior. Jennifer Crumbley texted her son after the shooting saying, Ethan, don't do it. James Crumbley called 911 to say that a gun was missing from their home and that Ethan might be the shooter. The gun had been kept in an unlocked drawer in the parents' bedroom. Ethan accompanied his father for the gun purchase on November 26, had posted photos of the firearm on social media saying, just got my new beauty today. But in his mind, it was suffering. In his mind, he was hurting. And in his mind, he had a lot of things, obviously. Yeah. When a person says what he wrote, you say, we need to help. I get it. Nobody knew that the gun was there at the school. I get that. I understand that. Sad. This happens again and again and again. What do we do? She said, quote, of course he shouldn't have gone back to the classroom. I believe that is a universal position. I'm not going to chastise or attack, but yeah. As the school officials may potentially be charged, McDonald said the investigation is ongoing. It's a lot of stuff happening to that young boy. It's a lot of stuff happening to the families that are now having to suffer. And that is what this kid is going to have to face 100%. But I feel he rightly deserves mental attention. He needs it. There are some that you go, where's the kid at? Some you go, where are their families at? And some don't even go, what kind of medication are they on? I talked about this week. I still think that's something that needs to be reevaluated. There are things that come out, usually, when it comes to medication, about side effects. And I have a feeling, well, these parents know a little bit more about that. So I think they need to speak up. Yes, this is the world we live in. There are things that are weird. There are things that are whoa. And there are things that we just got to be careful of. So what do we do next? Well, I will say this. I'm out of time, but I want to say thank you for understanding. Again, we are on this planet. We need to make sure that we are safe. I'm just going to leave you with a little bit of what's been happening. And again, here it is. This is the world at a glance. Bye-bye, everyone.